Hello, I'm still Bob Cooper, and 10 months ago I bought a Mercedes Vario. Yeah, we bought a Vario. We bought a Mercedes Vario, just like everyone else seems to have done. You can not tune into YouTube. That was me back then, before I set off on the journey to do the restoration, the welding, and all the work that took up most of my weekends and a lot of time in between, through rain, through COVID, through lots of things, and the result is here we are. I'm actually walking in the New Forest at the moment on a nice camping weekend with my two dogs. Mrs. Bob has gone away to Majorca for a weekend. Not that she doesn't want to join me, just that, as I said in the beginning, the van was always going to be a day van. Well, always, but stage one, let's call it stage one, was to make it into a day van. Get it ship shape, get it straight, make sure everything's working on it, and that's what we're doing. We're sort of testing it at the moment. I've had a couple of outings already, but this is the first one where I've spent a long weekend sort of living in the thing. So in this video we'll do a bit of a walk around and a bit of a recap, and I'll show you some of the things I've done since all the work's been carried out, and little bits and pieces that I've put in there to make it a little bit more habitable, at least for a weekend or for days out and things. So stick with me. So you've heard of my waffling. This is it, warts and all. This is what camper life is like. So, you know, there's a mess everywhere. I'm not going to tidy up for you today. Just see how much mess I can get into. Nothing too embarrassing here. There's a bit of washing up I'm going to go and do in a bit. There's bits and pieces everywhere. There's two dogs in my bed. Lazy sods, they haven't got up yet. Look at them. No, they want feeding, those two. And you know, you get into a mess. The hardest thing to remember is to put everything back and make sure that all the cupboard doors are shut. Make sure nothing's going to rattle, fall out, or just go flying across the van when you go around corners. Varios, they drive like a truck. I've got to say, I said this before at the very beginning, they do drive like a truck. It is essentially a truck chassis with van body put on it. So don't think you're going to get in something like a Transit and drive it like you would a car, because you don't. You drive these differently. You have to work the gears. This one doesn't have ABS. One of the things I want to do with it is improve the brakes on it a little bit, because I'm not, despite the fact they're all new, there's new pads on it, they're all working well. I freed it all off. The brakes aren't as sharp as my Subaru, when they're not going to be, because that's got ABS and it's got pin sharp brakes on it. But I'd like something a little bit better on this, if I can. It's just my preference, that's all. They do work perfectly well, pass an MOT, no problem at all. But I'd like to have a better feel for it. There's no handling to it. You know, it just drives like it is. Having said that, it drives like a truck. It's quite nice, as long as you don't want to do over 65, because they drink fuel after that. Then you'll be fine. You know, if you're used to driving a truck, then you'll know exactly what I mean, and you'll be driving down the motorway at truck speed. But it's not uncomfortable. You do get where you want to go, and it's got a feeling of dependability and solid reliability that comes with Mercedes vehicles. So I quite like that. You know, I'm not averse to that at all. And I'd buy another one again. Onto my bed then. This is occupied currently by these two. You know, they seem to spend most of their time when I'm not in it, and sometimes when I am in it. Yeah, memory foam mattress. It's a single, because that's the way the thing was built. So this will eventually, say, get changed. But it's quite comfortable. I can sleep across it. 6'2", just about fit. So not too bad there. There's a little container thing behind there, keep me phone and stuff. See the sockets I've put in for the 240 volt shore power. Easy enough to do. Just handy for charging your phone, really. And that's it. The TV screen at the back is redundant, doesn't work. Well, it does work, but I don't need it for anything. This is my fridge. It's a Halfords 24 volt condensing fridge. I get the word right. I mean, it hasn't got a pump in it, and it works fairly well. You know, it's okay. I can get quite a bit in there. I've eaten most of that actually this weekend, and it's okay. You know, it powers off a little 12 volt socket that I've stuck up under here, which goes back to my control panel back there, and also it's a mains powered one. So at the moment you can see it's plugged in over there. So yeah, it works quite well. Keeps it quite cool. It was only cheap. It wasn't a great deal of money. Does me. Cover beneath the fridge is completely homemade, as you can see. It's just some stuff I had together, because on my first camping trip, my first overnight, I woke up dying for the toilet, as you do. So I bought myself a little porta potty which fits in there. They're not expensive, and actually they work quite well, so you don't get caught out again. I use campsite toilets on this occasion, but where I'm here, but I have used it a couple of times, and yeah, it's quite good. It's quite a good little investment. They're not expensive if you don't mind emptying them out. You know, that's up to you how you want to do that, but it just, you know, saves you running across a campsite in the middle of the night just to go for a wee. Kitchen unit then. This is an IKEA job. Don't ask me why I chose IKEA. It's just it was the cheapest. It's finished but unfinished. There's no sink in here or hob or anything. I'm using a little Van Gogh 2-burner hob that I bought off of Amazon. Wouldn't rate that very much actually. It's very cheap. Running off a gas bottle which I remove. I remove that at night and make sure it's not connected. I don't like gas bottles being left connected like that. So yeah, good size worktop. It's a full-size 3-cabinet kitchen, 600mm by whatever they are, 600mm with openers. Let me just see what's in this one. Yeah, there's a few sorry, a few things I keep in here. There's a drawer for my knives and forks and things, and there's a bin under there, and I think I've got some wire racks in here. Wire racks probably the worst thing I bought for this. There's one thing I didn't completely realise when I put this kitchen in, is that everything will rattle. It will rattle like nothing's ever rattled before. So I spent a lot of my time just fixing everything. Obviously these push button locks are quite good. Don't do what I didn't buy cheap ones, because they are cheap and they're nasty. So since having it, I've had to secure those wire racks. They do slide in and out, and I found that if I put a lot of clothes on top of them, excuse my dirty laundry there, it stops them rattling a bit. Everything in the drawer goes into a bag, you can see here, and I take it out when I get on site, and again just make sure everything doesn't rattle around in here. So you will find an awful lot of rattling, which just drives me crazy after a while. It's inevitable, it's going to happen, isn't it? You're going to have things rattle and move around because you're carrying so much stuff. Excuse the mess, I'm living in this one today. Yeah, so just make sure you pour. This is my little dinette table for two, where I'm having my coffee at the moment, and it's very nice, must say, very nice sitting here. The front seat, which you've seen before, is folded flat, just so I can look out the windscreen really, but when Mrs. Bob's with me, it's upright, she faces forward. But nice view, you know, I can look out the window and look at the other campers, and, you know, enjoy the sunshine as we do. So if you're interested in all my electrics and systems, don't be really, because as I said, it is temporary. It's not a temporary, semi-temporary, you know, it's not going to be the permanent solution to it. But what we've done, we've put a voltage sensing relay down the side of there. I don't know if you can see it, but it's right down the bottom there, off the main batteries, into a pair of batteries which live behind this sort of cabinet affair that I've made here. There's a panel that comes off there, and behind there next to each other are two more batteries wired in parallel, so that's 24 volt. I've kind of embraced the 24 volt world really, because it's not that difficult to find 24 volt stuff, and it has its benefits. At least of all, I haven't got to buy converters for everything if I buy it all 24 volt. You can get bulbs, you can get bits and pieces. My fridge, as I've said, is 24 volts, works just fine, but you know, it's in there in parallel on a voltage sensing relay, so that it charges separately from the other batteries. Actually, a master switch here to turn the thing on, so that turns the masters on, so I know all my electrics are live in the back of the van. Good idea to have that as a fuse down. Oops, it is with my finger. There's a fuse in there as well, so I had a big old 40 amp fuse off this. I think it's a 75 amp switch, which I put on there, so just make sure it's nice and safe. When I isolate that, the battery is still charged. That goes up through an umbilical, up, past the redundant monitor. It does work, that monitor. I could use it, but you've got to crane your neck to watch anything, and it's easy just to watch it off your laptop. So up here we've got a panel, all made of, well, the panel itself was made by me, but the components are all Chinesium, apart from my Webasto heater there. That's not installed yet. I've got a place for it, but I'm not ready to put that in yet. I do have it already, it came with the van. So we've got above that we've got a battery sort of voltage gauge, not quite the one I wanted. I actually ordered the wrong one, but it does show what's happening at the moment. It shows I've got 24 volts, no amps being used because nothing's switched on. So it does work. Lets me know how much power has been sucked out of it. I've got a panel here, a couple of lights, some cabin lights, which are actually original. If I can get a picture on there, the original lights that come underneath the canopy of the bus, when it was a bus, actually work quite well. I replaced these bulbs with LEDs. I go LED bulbs wherever I can, because they use so little power that they'll last forever. Whereas your normal filament bulbs, you know, they do suck a bit of power out of it. You know, there's 10 of them in here. You know, for each 10 watts each, that's 100 watts of power. Well, these I think are 1 watt that I've got in there at the moment. Second one's to my fridge, which is that socket, which is way up the end of there, which is dangling down onto my fridge over there. so that powers that one. Won't turn it on, it's on mains at the moment. USB socket up here, glaring into the camera there. USB, charge my phone up and everything else, but I can charge it other ways as well. And I've put a fuse box here on the outside, just so I can get to it. It's not the most attractive things ever, but I've stuck it on there because I just like to get to things for the moment. You don't have to, and you could have made this a bit better, but it's neat enough. I'll step back a bit if I can. It's neat enough. Sorry, talking too fast, not enough coffee early in the morning. And finally, we've got, because I didn't get a battery meter on here, I've got a battery meter again from Amazon on here. It's only about 10 or so. It's just telling me at the moment I've got 60% batteries. It's running at 24 volts. That's actually quite good. I'm not sure if it works properly or not, because I can't get this anything above 65, 70, even if I use a battery charger on it. So I'm not sure if it wants recalibrating or something I've not done right, or because it is purely 10 quid's worth of China. That's not being unfair to China. Of course, they make some very fine things, some of which I may have even bought inadvertently. Coat hook there. Got a hanging coat somewhere. These batteries, by the way, they're I won't show them to you. I'll take the cover off. They're car batteries. They're ordinary lead acid car batteries, which some of you will be recoiling in horror at, because they're not leisure batteries. Now, the reason that they're car batteries is because they were free. So in my mind, free batteries are better than really expensive lithium batteries. If they only last half the time, you know, only last a couple of years, or don't last long at all, or start to annoy me, I can replace them. But I don't spend hundreds of pounds to start with buying lithium batteries, especially when we're not completely built yet. What's in the front then? So let's have a look here. Camera up there, which goes to the back of the cabin, so that I can watch my dogs, because they live back there. They're tethered. Excuse me. Sorry, they're tethered back there when we're travelling. When the bed's put away, there's a couple of lead hooks there which I hook them into. So there's a camera there just so that I can watch them from this little 7-inch LCD screen that I bought. But it has a secondary function. Press the button there, you can use the reversing camera. So reversing camera is quite good. I've got it pointing at the floor. I don't need to see who's behind me because I use mirrors for that. But I'll point it at the floor so I can back into tight space and see each corner of the vehicle. This came from Amazon, I think. It wasn't expensive. You're getting the theme here, aren't you? It wasn't expensive, and it's not very good. I have to say, I'm not really that impressed with the quality of that screen there. So if you do see, I think it's about 30 quid. I'll replace it with something better. You know, it's all experiments, this stuff. You can never do everything at once. Up at the top here, there was a panel there which we had the double DIN socket with the original radio. That's gone. That went in the skip. That doesn't do anything at all. It's just a plate that covers the hole that was there where the original heater, the Eberspacher heater controls were. There's a couple of switches over there. One does interior lights. In fact, they all do interior lights. And yeah, cabin lights at the back here as well. I forgot what I did for a second here. Over this side, we've got first aid kit in this overhead locker here. A sticker on there. Yeah, all my first aid kit is in there. Quite a big one actually. Had that for a long time, so if you need it, you should always mark where your first aid kit is as well, just as a matter of courtesy, so you never know when you might need to find it, or someone else might need to find it in a hurry. Down the bottom here, I think you've seen most of this already. We've got a couple of mounts for phones, sat navs. There's a little light down there which I use at night. Nothing too exciting really. It's just stuff that I've found. Put a tyre pressure monitor on it over there. They look cheap, these things, tyre pressure monitoring systems from again from China. But I've had one in my car for about 3 years now, and it's absolutely fine. It works really well, and surprising how much you rely on it. And it's interesting to see. I'll zoom into it. Interesting to see how temperature affects tyre pressure. Probably not showing up that well at the moment because of the sunlight. Interesting to see how tyre pressure is affected by temperature. It does change quite a lot, sort of 10-15 pounds in sometimes. It's very, very interesting to see that. What else we've got down there is a switch that does something else. Can't remember what it does now. Oh, it does the interior light, doesn't it? Yeah, sorry, that one's the interior light for the cab here. Just turn the switch on. There's a big red light down there, not the one that's flashing, that tells me when my step is out if I try to drive off with that. And the flashing light is a big secret. It's part of my alarm system. Mirrors, I've stuck some extra mirrors on this, not because I'm not good with mirrors, but I like to see what's going on behind me. So I've got a wide angle mirror on the driver's side and a wide angle mirror which came from a farm shop actually. They're about 11 quid each, they weren't expensive at all. That goes on the passenger side. Really useful those, because there's no real blind spots on these. This pillar from the quarter light sometimes gets in the way. If you're not driven one of these, I've yet to experiment with better positionings for these, but you can see it, and that wide angle mirror is actually really good when you're on the motorway. I've also got a curved mirror on this as well, up there, which I think is from a Volvo. Just to see how close you are to the curb when you're creeping along. I've used it a couple of times. It's not essential, but I've seen it on other Varios and I thought I want one of those. And so on to the sound system actually. So what's best to do? You know, we've got a double DIN socket up here above the cab. I don't want to be fiddling above my head all the time trying to turn the radio on and off. I mostly listen to Spotify, or other streaming services are available, or I listen to the radio. So what I did, rather than buy a double DIN head unit with all bells and whistles, Android, Apple Play, whatever they come with, I just bought a Bluetooth receiver. So it's just a Bluetooth amplifier. Again, Chinese. I keep going, well, it's Chinese. It might not be, you know. I keep saying it, but you know, what I like to do is I like to try things first. If I like it and think it's great, then I buy a better version. I'm not going to go out all out and buy the most expensive thing I can, like a really expensive Kenwood head unit. Sounds lovely, but you're in a noisy truck, so you're going to have to really amp up the speakers to get above that engine sound. So just use what you can find. So it's about a 40-watt speaker, double. It's a 4-channel output actually. I quite like the idea of this, because there's one here which is the 2 front speakers, and there's another volume control here which is the rear speakers. Just spin you around for a second. This vehicle's got 6 speakers in the back of it here, so for my passengers and for when I'm camped I can turn the volume up in the back there and leave it down in the front. It's fully Bluetooth. So that I just use radio from my phone or Spotify from my phone, which I stick onto the dashboard down there, and then just Bluetooth straight into it. As Bluetooth goes, sometimes we can get a bit angry with Bluetooth and it doesn't work, but this one works perfectly. It tunes in straight away. Really no issue at all, and I'm quite impressed with that really. I'll go better than that. So no need to buy an expensive head unit. The only issue, and it's not really an issue, is this: if you've spotted it already, that's upside down, because it kind of mounts flat on top of the dashboard, but because we're underneath here, I ummed and ahed about it, tried to fit it different ways. In the end, just screwed it upside down. It really doesn't matter at all. You're not reading the dials, you're not looking at it. It just, well, if you look at it, it looks a bit odd, but it works perfectly well. Also plays media from an SD card or from a thumb drive. There's no real menu to it. There is a remote control with it, which I don't use, but it works perfectly well. Quite happy with that, and I'll probably improve it as time goes on when I decide to change all the bits in here. Fuel wise, what am I getting? I'm getting about 22, 23 to the gallon, and at today's prices it gets quite expensive. But then what are you going to get out of a Sprinter or a Transit? Maybe a T5 diesel, you'll get a bit more out of that. Tell me in the comments if you have one. Just tell me what sort of MPG you get. So what price do you want to pay for that? I am 6'2". I can stand up in here, I can walk around. You've seen how much space I've got. Could I do the same thing in the cramped vehicle? Well, actually I did before. Actually, I had a Sprinter some time ago that I used to live in for short periods, but that was a bit cramped, and things you can never find where you left things. So I realised I got back home and I realised I didn't show you what was in the back. So I've taken the little van vault thing off of there. So van vault, van lock, you know. So the back of this, as you can not see, is, oh, it doesn't open like that. As I say, it used to be a Golf VIP wagon, so it's got a great big boot area, as I'm trying to show you here. Big old lens I've got here. Super clean, and it's full of junk at the moment. I've got a couple of camping chairs in here. You can see my spare wheels in here. It goes back quite a long way. It actually goes, it's pretty huge, and it's also got a tub under here, which I'm going to show you that in a second. But of course, it's all redundant space. I can't really use any of this. You know, it's not something you'd use in a motorhome or a camper. It's not going to be a garage or anything. So stage 2 is to take all of this out. This whole back panel will come out, and I'll make the double berth that I'm going to do here in my next phase. I'll try and keep some boot space under here, but let's see how that pans out. It's full of junk at the moment. The question I got, which I'm going to ask you all, is under here we've got, sorry for the wobbliness, we've got a great big tub. It's a big fiberglass tub that sits in the back of these. When it was built, they cut the back of the chassis off, much to my annoyance,
because I can't put a tow bar on just yet. I put this great big fiberglass tub in it. I've seen it before on other buses and things. So a question I've got for anyone full of junk at the moment, my spare wheel tyre changing equipment, is how much weight do these take? They're fiberglass, and I'm going to put a couple of water tanks in here, which will fit in here quite nicely actually, but I'm worried about how much weight this thing will take. Do I need to reinforce it? Do I need to strengthen it? You know, I can get quite a couple of 100 litres in here. So what did you do if you've got the same sort of setup where you've got a bus or van conversion with a fiberglass tub at the back end like this one? What did you do? Did you take it out, rebuild it? I've got a mind to put a chassis back in here so I can put a tow bar on the back, or do I use it for, you know, insulated water tanks? So write in the comments what you think about that. Anyway, that's a tour of my bus. There's my shore power over there. Got to do a bit of work to that actually. That's my bus, so that's it for now. Pretty soon I'm going to start pulling all this out, and we'll start making something else out of it. So again, thanks for watching.